You're listening to Pombo and Peter's Picks, the home of your favorite sports betting podcast. Presented by The Daily Goat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Pombo and Peter's Picks. I'm Jason Pombo, joined as always by Peter Alves. Peter, how we doing? Happy Friday. NFL preseason football is now in full swing. How's your Friday going?
Good. Patriots were yesterday. Recording on Thursday. Hopefully they win. I don't know. Hopefully Zappy comes in there.
Are you a kind of better that bets on preseason football?
Not usually, but I did bet $20 on the Patriots plus 3.5.
For the game that
Yeah.
happened yesterday?
Yep. So hopefully.
Okay. Hopefully you won.
I don't know.
Can you do prop bets for preseason on like DraftKings and stuff? I'm sure you can't.
I have no idea. I didn't look that
Because
far.
they don't know who's gonna play and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's not like Bailey Zappi over like 100 passing yards or something like that. That wouldn't make too much sense, but
On Prize Picks, there was on the Hall of Fame game for Zach Wilson.
really, so that means in Prize Picks they absolutely have that then. 100%. Love Prize
It was
Picks.
like 88.5 yards or something.
I tell you what, Peter, I enjoy doing Prize Picks on if you have like 3 or 4 people, whatever, 2, 3, 4 people, and you're just like each pick a pick. That's fun. Couple bucks a week. I enjoy
Well,
doing
we do that in both songs. Whatever I pick on Prize Picks, I just do it.
Yeah. Have you guys ever won?
I did on the Super Bowl, but not
Yeah.
usually. No.
No shit, you won in the Super Bowl. You won every bet you hit. God. But all right,
Shout
Peter.
out
So
to my home.
you're good. You look, I bet on the Eagles. I was wrong, and so was 95% of the other people that I was with betting on that game. The only other person was you and my brother. That was it. I don't know anyone else that came out as hot as you were on top of that. All right, Peter. So this week we have the NFC South and the AFC South. We've already done the AFC West, the NFC West, the AFC East, and the NFC East. And then next week we're going to do the NFC North and AFC North. So we'll save. I don't want to call it the best for last, but they're last.
I mean, it's fine. It's better than this one.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, the AFC South I think is a little. I think the NFC South is one of the most intriguing divisions of football. To be honest with you,
That's just because nobody's good and their schedule's so easy.
it's unpredictable. I think there's a lot of unpredictable. There's a lot of young talent in that division. We'll get into it. But a lot of guys that were selected high in the draft, new head coaches. So I think this is an exciting this will be an exciting episode because I think these two divisions could kind of go in a couple different directions. So let's start off with the NFC South, which might be the most intriguing division in football. Let's start off with the New Orleans Saints, who are favored to win the NFC South. The Saints, according to DraftKings, are plus 120 to win the division, and their win total is set at 9.5 games. What's a little bit about the Saints offseason? They, of course, signed former Raiders quarterback Derek Carr to a 4-year deal worth $150 million. Also notable to mention, Alvin Kamara, running back, was suspended for the first 3 games of the season. So he will be out, like I just mentioned, the first 3 games of the season. They also agreed to a contract restructure with wide receiver Michael Thomas. We haven't seen Michael Thomas in a couple years now, but he's reportedly healthy and he's looked okay in training camp, so he looks like he's good to go.
Yeah, sure. I hope he dropped in fantasy. Yeah, okay.
Slant God. In the first round of the draft, the Saints selected defensive tackle Byron Breesy from Clemson. So again, they are favored to win this division at plus 120, and their win total is set at 9.5 games. Peter, what do you think of the new look New Orleans Saints with Derek Carr at the helm?
So New Orleans Saints, as I said in the beginning, their schedule is absolutely stupid. I think their hardest game is probably Dallas or Philly. Oh no, not Dallas, or not Philly, but Philly or I don't even know, like the Minnesota maybe, but like their schedule is ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, Michael Thomas will be out after, I'll say it, like week 6 probably. Alvin Kamara is gonna be out 3 weeks. It doesn't really matter. They got Jamal Williams. I don't know. Their explosive offense will probably be good. Derek Carr will be better than Jameis Winston, even though that pains me to say that. they'll be good, but I have them as the slight under. They'll lock it. If you want to make a bet on the Saints, make them to win or to make the playoffs.
So you're taking the under 9.5, right? I'm gonna take the under the under as well. I think the Saints win 8 games this year. I think they go 8-9. So I have them with the slight under. I think losing Alvin Kamara in the first 3 games of the season is a little bit more significant than I think people think it is. Derek Carr, of course, is coming over from Vegas, learning a whole new offense. And look, when you're a veteran quarterback in a new offense, it does take time. And when you lose your most dynamic weapon on the offensive end, it certainly is going to be a reason for caution. And I know you mentioned the Saints' schedule, and I think that whole division itself, the schedule, I guess, is relatively easy compared to other divisions we broke down, like for example, the AFC East, where it's a complete gauntlet for the
Other
first
than the
2 months.
other than the Bucs.
But so look, week 1, the Saints open up home against Tennessee. I think that's a tough game. That game could go either way. I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee won that game. Week 2, they're at Carolina. I think that's a Monday Night Football game. Week 2 on the road, Monday Night Football, difficult game. Week 3 at Green Bay, at Lambeau. Again, without Alvin Kamara, I could see a scenario where the Saints start off really slow. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if they started off 0-3, despite the fact that that schedule isn't necessarily a gauntlet. And I think that could kind of put them behind the 8 ball in terms of their win total. So again, I like them under. I think they win 8 games, 8-9. I like a lot of their pieces. I love Chris Olave. I think he's a stud. I think he's somebody that's going to continue to grow and take another jump. But I do think they have some concerns in other areas, right? I think that defense is cause to concern. It's age for some reason. They haven't really, I guess, replenished some of that older talent. Cam Jordan just got his pay restructured at age 35.
He's
So he's still making.
retiring as a Saint. Like everybody has said.
Yeah, he must be.
Like, I don't know. Everyone said that when he signed that contract extension, I was like, yeah, he's gonna retire as a Saint. I was like, really?
Yeah, and he's somebody that, look, he's been an anchor there for I want to say he got drafted like 2009, maybe. Like, he got drafted a long time, 2011. But look, his production, I mean, look, he like I mentioned before, he's 34 years old, and he is putting up decent numbers, but I think he is regressing a little bit. He had only 8.5 sacks last year. So I don't know. I just think the Saints defense has some holes. And ultimately, I have them under here. I think they, like I just mentioned, I think they win 8 games. Anything else on the New Orleans Saints before we move on?
No, I bet them to make the playoffs. NFC
What is
so bad.
what is that? Do you have
It is
those
plus 125.
on DraftKings 1+125?
Yeah.
Interesting. So look, I do think the NFC does hold some value because, well, you like you just mentioned, Peter, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of underwhelming talent on a lot of teams, and it's clear that the NFC is very, very, very much weaker than the AFC. So again, it wouldn't shock me if 2 teams, I guess, made the playoffs out of this division. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, Peter. They are plus 215 to win the NFC South, according to DraftKings, and their win total is at 8.5 wins. About their offseason, they've re-signed guard Chase Lindrum to a 5-year, $105 million deal. They also re-signed offensive tackle Caleb McGarry to a 3-year deal worth $34.5 million. They signed former Bengals safety Jesse Bates to a 4-year deal worth $64 million. They brought on quarterback Taylor Heineke, and they signed him to a 2-year deal worth up to $20 million. In the first round of the draft, they drafted running back Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick of the draft from Texas. The phenom from Texas. Again, that was Carr's guy over the years. He's a huge fan. So, like I just mentioned, Peter, 8.5 wins is the total, and they are at plus 215 to win the division. The Falcons, I guess, overachieved last year. I remember I was mocked because I had the Falcons over last year. I think their win total was like at 4, and I picked the over, and I think that they went 6 last year, 6 or 7. So, yeah, what do you think about the Atlanta Falcons?
I love the Atlanta Falcons this year. I think they're gonna do real well. Their division's also soft and their schedule is soft. They have Jets and they have the Vikings. But I think those are their 2 hardest games. I think Kyle Pitts is actually gonna get going. Desmond Riddler is gonna actually ball out. I mean, I should degrade them for trading John Smith, but that's fine. But and then their defense should not be as bad as it was last year. There's no way it can get worse. So
So, like the Falcons, I love their young talent. I'm a huge fan of Kyle Pitts, despite the fact that he hasn't necessarily clicked yet. Bijan Robinson, I really, really like.
Because you have
Look,
him in Dynasty. Yeah, that's fine.
yes, that as well. Yes, that does help, Peter. And I wouldn't have gave up the far. I didn't even give up that much, but like I wouldn't have traded up for him if I didn't think he was going to be a good player.
Yeah, Seth, you're not listening, but you screwed me forever, so that's fine.
Were you going to pick Bijan?
I mean,
Were you?
obviously.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously. Sure.
100%. Desmond Ritter, he's a question mark. I do like some elements of his game. I think he came in and he did a half decent job last year in a small sample size, but I haven't seen enough of him yet. He's the clear starter, in my opinion, over Taylor Heineke, unless something goes awry. But I am going to take the under here, though, Peter. I think the Falcons win 7 games. I have some question marks about that defense. I like how they shored up the offensive line, re-signing Lindstrom and McGarry, but bringing in Jesse Bates will certainly help, but I still have some question marks. And I could see a scenario where the Falcons offense keeps them in games, but the defense kind of loses them tight games. So I think the Falcons under. I think they go 7-10 on the year. And I think we're going to enter an offseason in which everyone's raving about how much talent the Falcons have, but they're just, maybe it's a question about Arthur Smith, about if he's going to last in Atlanta, because I think this year might be make or break for him. I think when you look at how people are, look, Vegas has them at 8.5 wins. I do think that means they're a borderline playoff team, especially in this conference. So I think they need to really put up or shut up here. And I think they go under them. 7-10 is my number here. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be awesome. I'm sure we'll get into NFL awards in like 3 weeks from now, but yeah, you can figure out where I'm leaning for offensive rookie of the year. But yeah, under. I'm going to go 7-10 for the Falcons. All right, let's move on to the Carolina Panthers, Peter. The Panthers win total is set at 7.5 wins, and they are plus 400 to win the NFC South, according to DraftKings. The Carolina Panthers were very busy this offseason. They signed free agent wide receiver Adam Thielen to a 3-year deal worth $25 million. They signed wide receiver DJ Chark to a 1-year deal worth $5 million. They brought in tight end Hayden Hurst, reaching a 3-year contract worth $21.75 million. They signed running back Miles Sanders to a 4-year deal. But their biggest offseason acquisition was selecting quarterback Bryce Young with the first pick of the draft. They also brought in Frank Reich to be their new head coach. So like I just mentioned, Peter, the Panthers plus 400 to win the NFC South. Win total set at 7.5. What do you think about the Carolina Panthers with the whole revamped coaching staff, offense, and pretty much personnel? It's a whole new team.
Yeah, I mean, I love them. I mean, Sam Darnold's going to be not in the fold, obviously, but like Bryce Young's going to be way better than that. I have them as the over. Miles Sanders is hurt, but I don't think that matters in the short term. Their offense should be fine. Their defense was a little bright spot from last year. And as I said, with the whole NFC South division, other than the Bucs, their schedule is so soft. So I have them as the over. I like them as a sleeper.
I'm
Bet
taking
them
the
to,
over.
yeah, bet
No, you
them
don't.
to make the playoffs.
Peter, I think that's a solid bet. I agree with you. I'm taking the over here. I really like this Carolina Panthers team. I'm a huge Bryce Young guy. I remember we discussed this during the draft talk. He was my number 1 quarterback. I think he's electric. I think he's accurate. I think he's very good at reading defenses, and I think he's going to come in day 1 and make a real impact in Frank Reich's offense. I also think Frank Reich is a really good coach, and he got done kind of dirty in Indianapolis. He dealt with a lot of different kind of quarterback struggles. Course, with Andrew Luck retiring, they weren't really able to replace him. Bringing in guys like Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. He kind of dealt with the gauntlet of mediocre aging quarterbacks, and I think he kind of did prop them to the best they could. He made the playoffs a couple times, but I think he's going to really succeed here in Carolina. I'm taking the over here. I like the defense a lot. Brian Burns, he has an all-pro potential. Miles Sanders, like you mentioned, despite the fact that him being hurt, I think he can come make a difference for this team when he's healthy. Thielen, DJ Chark, I think that's a nice combo. The offensive line, also, they made some work there as well. I like this team a lot. I'm taking the over. And I think this Panthers team could be one that people are kind of sleeping on, as you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. There's no attention coming to them.
No,
You'd
nobody's
be
talking
surprised.
about them. Last but not least, in the NFC South, the mighty have fallen. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers Division odds are plus 800 to win the NFC South. Their win total is set at 6.5 wins, according to DraftKings. And a little bit about the Bucs. So unfortunately for the Bucs, Tom Brady retired from the NFL, so they had a small job of replacing him. To replace him, they brought in quarterback Baker Mayfield. They signed him to a 1-year deal worth $8.5 million. They also re-signed Levante David, the linebacker, to a 1-year deal. In the first round of the draft, they selected defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, KJ Cansey. So again, Peter, Bucs plus 800, and their win total is at 6.5. This is certainly a new look Bucs team. We have a quarterback battle going on in training camp right now between Kyle Trask, the quarterback from Florida that was drafted a couple years ago, and Baker Mayfield, like I just mentioned, the veteran quarterback coming over from the Rams last. So it's unclear who that's going to be. I believe in the first preseason game on Saturday, I think Baker Mayfield's getting the nod, and then Trask is going to get the nod game 2. So that job is completely, it's an unknown about who's going to get it. So what do you think about the Bucs? It feels like their expectations are very, very minimal, to say the least.
So like their depth chart's a joke. Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's preseason, but then their schedule is a dog fest. I mean, obviously they got Minnesota like everybody else. They got Philly. They got the joys of being a first place schedule, even though they're probably the worst. I have them as hard under. It's probably my best bet of probably our whole shows that we're gonna do. Their defense is gonna be fine, and then like it has been a pickle because like their quarterback play is gonna be so bad. But like they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and then like whoever they sling out and running back, Keyshawn Vaughn or whatever. Always has me in pickle, and I will draft Mike Evans. That doesn't even matter in fantasy football. But yeah, Bucks are gonna be so bad. Have money fallen, as you said. And
What?
Todd Bowles is the first coach rumored to be fired or favored to be fired.
Oh, he's number 1, and I think that's perfect. I think we saw Todd Bowles when he took over last year for Bruce Arians. He didn't do a good job with that roster. A Tom Brady-led roster, under 500. I know it's not prime Tom Brady to say the least, but that was a stupid-ass football team. And I don't think Todd Bowles did a good job there. And certainly, from my understanding, it felt like the players were sort of like, about how he was. And obviously the relationship with Bruce Arians went sour. But I would have brought somebody up from the complete outside. Instead, they kind of just elevated Todd Bowles. And I don't know. I'm not a believer in Bowles. I never was with it when he was with the Jets, and I'm certainly not with the Bucs. So this is an aging roster, like you mentioned, right? Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Mike Evans, as you mentioned, your guy,
There's
Chris
one
Godwin.
holding out. There's one holding out right now, right? On the defense.
I think
I think
there is. I forget who it was. Who is it?
I
Do you
think it's
remember?
Schechter or
It might
somebody
be
actually,
Shaq
or
Barrett.
Levante David or something.
They signed Levante David. He's under
Might be
contract.
Schechter or something.
Maybe it's the guy in the secondary.
Somebody on
I'm
the
not.
defense line is
Maybe you're right. Vita Vea, like all those guys, good players. You know what I mean? They were very good in their prime, but they're kind of just aging now. And I just certainly don't see a scenario in which they are real contenders. This season, I really don't. I have them in the under. I think the Bucs probably win 4 games this year. I think Baker Mayfield is going to win the job. I do think he will end up losing it a couple games into the season. I don't know, maybe the halfway mark. I do think Baker Mayfield wins the job, but I don't think he's going to hang on to it for very long. And if you're Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and the litter of receivers that played with Tom Brady over the last couple of years, how do you even stay engaged this season? Like, I think it's a very difficult task. I really do. And I don't even joke when I say this, but like, if I'm Mike Evans, I'm like, dude, I'm like in my 30s now. Tom Brady's gone. I'm checking out. Like this
yeah, you're
sucks.
requesting a trade, both of them.
I have Baker Mayfield freaking throwing me the ball and Kyle Trask. Like, what are we doing here? We're 3-9 through 12 games. This sucks. Like, get me the hell out of here. And Godwin, if he can even stay healthy, like, I'm sorry. This Bucks core, which was good 3 years ago, it is now aged, and they're trying to replenish it with young talent. That's clear, but they just haven't done so yet. And I think the quarterback position is still clearly uncertain. So I have them under 4-13 is my total. I think they're going to be right in the driver's seat for potentially landing that number 1 pick of the draft. Well, I don't think they get it, but I think they'll be in the conversation for the last couple weeks of the year.
And it drafted a quarterback.
Yeah,
But
shocker.
everyone was saying that, and they didn't, obviously. So
Yep, and like, look, Kyle Trask is somebody they want to see play. It's clear, right? They drafted him. I think it was like in the 3rd round in 2021. It might have been 2020. It was a couple years
I
ago.
think it was 2020.
Was it the Mac Jones? No, I don't think it was the Mac Jones year. I
Oh,
think it was 2020. You're right.
20. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It was 2020. So
It
he
was right when
sat for
Brady came in, and everybody was like, no.
Brady's successor. And look, he's somebody they want to see play, and I just don't necessarily know if I see it. And I don't know. This Bucs team to me, it's going to be take them some time before they can kind of get back to where they were. But lucky for them, the division is winnable. You know, if Baker Mayfield can play average football or Kyle Trask can play average football, not turn the ball over, and the defense is, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way they used to be, they could win 7-8 games. Like they could. But I just don't think Baker Mayfield is good enough to do that. I don't.
I don't. As I said, like everybody faces Minnesota, the NFC North. So like they're facing Detroit, Minnesota. They're facing Philly because of the first place schedule. They're facing 49ers. They're facing Green Bay, facing Jacksonville, and then the whole division will beat up on itself, as we said, as we saw last year. I don't know. I feel like it's a recipe for disaster. And 6.5 because the whole division is terrible. But
It's generous. You're right. And
yeah,
that's the only reason
it
why
is.
Vegas is
Yeah.
unsure. And all right. So about the NFC South, after breaking down these 4 teams, who do you like to win the division, Peter?
Oh, the Falcons, plus 215. I think they're gonna be pretty good. I don't like the Saints because of their injury concerns. Alvin Kamara is gonna be out 3 weeks. Derek Carr is fine, but I love the Falcons.
Falcons a plus 215. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers a plus 400 to win the NFC South. This might be my boldest, I guess, division winner of our division breakdowns here, but I like the Panthers. I do, and I think offensively they're going to click. I think they have some stars on the defensive side of the football, and I think they win the division. I do. I think they win 9 games, and I think they win that division by kind of the very, very last week or the second to last week, whatever it is. I think they go 9-8 to win the division, and I think they look crazy to say going from. I know they didn't have the worst record in the league last year, but they did have the first pick of the draft. So going from the first pick of the draft to hosting a first round playoff game is certainly a jump.
I don't hate that, and you better have that ticket by the end of the year.
I think that is a ticket I will have. There's a
That's
couple
400.
that I plan on doing, and that's one of them. Does that make you feel good?
Patriots plus 850.
Got me.
We're not. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the AFC South. This division, I guess, has probably more certainty than the NFC South. Let's start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are favored to win the AFC South at minus 155, and their win total is set at 9.5 wins, according to DraftKings. And about the Jaguars offseason, it was relatively quiet. They placed the franchise tag on tight end Evan Ingram, later agreed to a 3-year deal worth $41 million with the tight end. They also have Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver, returning from his gambling suspension. It's a huge addition for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence especially. In the first round of the draft, they selected offensive tackle Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. I believe he was, if I remember correctly, I think that was Carr's number 1 tackle off the board. So,
No idea.
yeah, I want to say that was, I don't know why I remember that, but I feel like that was Carr's guy. So like I just said, Jaguars minus 155 to win the AFC South and 9.5 wins is their total. What do you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2023?
Love the Jaguars. As I said in the NFC South, the AFC South is probably as soft as the NFC South. Trevor Lawrence is going to play an MVP caliber. They have all position skill players that you want. Christian Kirk resurged last year. Zay Jones even did that. Evan Ingram did that. If you look in practice, I mean, Calvin Ridley to Trevor Lawrence. Holy crap, no.
Yeah, I like Calvin Ridley. I think he's a great receiver, and I think people forget how good he is. Now, not playing a season is significant. Just look at Deshaun Watson. You know, when he came back after missing 2 years, the rust on him was severe. And who knows if Watson can even recover. But I think it's a little bit different for a receiver than a quarterback, and I think Ridley will ultimately be okay. I'm going to agree with you. I'm taking the over. I think the Jaguars win 10 games. I don't love the Jaguars as much as everybody else because some people are picking the Jaguars, I guess, to come out of the AFC. I'm not that high on them, but I do think they win 10 games. I think Trevor Lawrence is legit. I think he's a great quarterback, and I think he is a up and coming. I don't even want to call him up and coming. I think he hasn't arrived, but he's certainly getting there. Doug Peterson, I puts him in great positions to succeed, and I think adding Calvin Ridley is significant. Also, getting a long-term deal done with Evan Ingram, I think is important. Evan Ingram acted as a safety blanket a lot for Trevor Lawrence in that offense last year, and I thought that was an underrated, I guess, move for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ingram had 73 catches last year. That was a career high for him. 98 targets. He had 4 touchdowns. He was big for in that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. So I'm taking the over. I think Jags win 10 games.
I love when he goes to Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones. He learns how to actually catch.
Yeah, right. He was considered, I wouldn't say a bust, but there was a lot of people down on him.
Well, he couldn't catch. Every single
Yeah.
thing was hands. He just was like, oops.
But Doug Peterson, he knows how to use him, and I think Trevor Lawrence clearly knows how to get him the ball. Let's move on to your Tennessee Titans, Peter. Your Tennessee Titans. They are plus 350 to win the AFC South. Their win total is at 7.5 wins. The Titans, they signed offensive tackle Andre Dillard to a 3-year deal worth $29 million. They also signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, RIP. In the first round in the draft, they selected offensive tackle Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. In the second round, they selected Peter's guy, Will Levis from Kentucky, quarterback. So, Titans, plus 350 to win the AFC South with a win total of 7.5. What do you think about your Tennessee Titans?
So, like, on the flip side, I want the Titans are so bad. Will Levis will start, but like, I have them as the over just out of spite. I mean, Derrick Henry will get the box stuffed. I mean, Traylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins should be better than last year. What they had, their defense should be amazing, or as good as they were last year. And then their like head coach. I mean, just speaks for himself. I think he's being Mike Tomlin 2.0 and just not be as bad as everybody else thinks. I think everybody's down, down, down on the Titans.
I agree with you. I'm taking the over. I have the Titans winning 8 games. I think they'll go 8-9. And like you kind of compared Mike Vrabel to Mike Tomlin, I think there is some similarities there. I think Mike Vrabel is a great head coach, and I think he gets the most out of his teams. And we've seen that in the last couple of years, dragging who even was the Titans starting quarterback in the Week 18 game against the Jaguars. I don't even remember who it was. Was it Dobbs?
Oh, probably they won.
Dobbs and Malik Willis, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like they
Because the
kind
Jags
of.
had a win or something, right?
Yeah. There was another game that happened and the Titans were eliminated, but I think the Titans won that, and I forgot how it went. But whatever it was, Mike Vrabel is a great head coach, and he gets the most out of his teams. While I don't think this Titans team is as talented as they have been in years past, but they did make some nice additions, right? I think adding DeAndre Hopkins is big for Traylon Burks, as you mentioned. It's big for Derrick Henry, and it's big for Ryan Tannehill. Because look, DeAndre Hopkins, despite the fact that he's not the DeAndre Hopkins of old, he can still stretch the field, catch deep passes, and I think he can change how defenses look at the Tennessee Titans as you kind of described. I have them over. Like I said, 8 wins for the Titans. They'll be in it to the end, making an attempt to make the playoffs. And I don't know if we'll see your guy Will Levis this year. I guess in this scenario, for me, I think Tannehill will end up keeping the job for now.
Me too, which is so sad. I want to root against him so bad. I don't think on paper they're going to be that bad.
But I wouldn't. Here's the thing, Peter. If they're winning with their defense and running game, and Tannehill is not performing, Vrabel isn't afraid to make a change, even if
but
they're
that's
winning.
just how he was like last year and a year before that. It's all Derrick Henry and just everything on top.
I guess it depends how Vrabel feels about Will Levis. I'm not sure how he feels. I do know. I have read that Malik Willis is at a nice training camp, a nice start at training camp anyway, that he is kind of came in shape, a better understanding of the playbook, and he looks more like NFL ready now. But again, how does Mike Vrabel feel? It didn't feel like last year Mike Vrabel liked Malik Willis at all. You know what I mean? It felt like he was somebody that Mike Vrabel was sort of kind of stuck with.
I don't think they would have drafted a quarterback.
Yeah, it's clear that Vrabel did not like that pick, and that GM is now gone. So, it's different. You know, is Will Levis more of Mike Vrabel's guy now? Is that more of a Mike Vrabel pick? Because if it was, then I think you have more of a chance to see Will Levis than you wouldn't. On the other hand, you know. But I agree with you though, Peter. I think people are sleeping on this team a little bit. I know some people think they're going to be the worst team in the AFC South, and I don't buy that. They're not bottoming out. Mike Vrabel is way too good of a coach to bottom out. And I think that defense is too good. And I think the Titans know how to win football games. And we've seen that countless times. And look, it's not going to be pretty. I'm not saying they're going to go 12-5 and host a playoff game, but I think they're good enough to win 8 games. All right, let's move on to the Houston Texans, Peter. The Texans. I'm sorry. Let's go to the Colts. My fault. Colts are plus 600 to win the AFC South. Their win total is 6.5 wins, according to DraftKings. The Colts had a relatively exciting offseason, to say the least. First of all, they're in a current standoff with running back Jonathan Taylor. It's uncertain about how that's going to go. Him and Jim Irsay have got into a little bit of a dispute. The agent's involved. Jonathan Taylor wants a contract extension. Jim Irsay doesn't look like he's going to do it. But Jonathan Taylor is reportedly hurt now. The Colts have worked out Kareem Hunt. They signed Kenyon Drake this week. So is that an indication Jonathan Taylor could miss time? It might be. They brought in quarterback Gardner Minshew. But most notably, they drafted quarterback Anthony Richardson from Florida with the 4th overall pick of this year's draft. So the Colts, like I just said, their win total, to me anyway, I was surprised it was this high. 6.5 wins, and they are plus 600 to win the AFC South. What do you think about the Colts?
That's what I said too, and then I immediately said the under. I mean, Anthony Richardson will be fine. He's starting week 1 of the preseason. I think is
Yes.
a setup to be a failure. I mean, your boy Michael Pittman will be fine. Alex Pierce will be fine. Sam McKenzie will be fine. I don't know about Jonathan Taylor. Even if he does play, I mean, if they start off real slow, he'll be like, "What are we doing?" Jim Irsay doesn't want him. Their defense probably will be fine. I mean, it's a Colts, so they'll be scrappy. But like as we said for like 3 years ago, and every year since then,
They don't spend money.
why don't why don't you sign anybody that's actually real or serious?
And I forgot to mention, they brought in Shane Steichen to be the team's head coach, offensive coordinator from the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm taking the under. I agree with you, Peter. I think the Colts win 5 games this year. Look, Anthony Richardson, he's an exciting prospect, right? There's a lot of flash there with his athleticism, his arm strength. But I think it's a situation like Josh Allen, where I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to kind of light the world up from day one. I think it's more of a project. While I do think he is going to start week 1, I agree with you. I think it's going to take some time, especially if he's going to miss Jonathan Taylor. That's significant. The offensive line for the Colts isn't as strong as it used to be in years past. And the defense is aged. I like the under here. I think they win 5 games. And it feels like the whole Jonathan Taylor stuff has some real issues there. And I wonder how the locker room feels like about that whole situation. Because Jonathan Taylor is surely a leader in that locker room.
That's
And
probably your best player on the field.
he
Don't
might be he might be
don't
the best
overlook.
offensive player in that division.
Yeah, for sure. Well, other than Trevor Lawrence, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's an issue for me. So that's why I'm taking the under here.
Don't
Um,
overlook that. They'll be the worst team in the NFL.
I don't think that's crazy. First time head coach Jonathan Taylor is fighting with the owner. You
Your
know, like
quarterback. Well,
rookie
let it
quarterback
go.
who's gonna take some time. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. Last but not least, the Houston Texans. They are plus 800 to win the AFC South. Their win total is set at 6.5 wins. The Texans were also busy this offseason. They reached an agreement, a 3-year deal worth $75 million with offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil. They signed wide receiver Robert Woods to a 2-year deal worth a little over $15 million. They signed tight end Dalton Schultz to a 1-year deal, along with running back Devin Singletary. They acquired offensive guard Shaq Mason from the Bucs, and they hired D'Amico Ryan to be the team's head coach. D'Amico Ryan, of course, was the 49ers defensive coordinator. With the 2nd overall pick of the draft, they selected C.J. Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State, who is likely going to win that job over Davis Mills and Case Keenum. So what do you think about the Texans, Peter? Like I just said, plus 800 to win the AFC South, and their win total is at 6.5 wins.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they traded a 3rd overall pick too to get Will Anderson. I don't really know. I mean, the Houston Texans offense is absolutely terrible. I mean, they got Dalton Schultz, CJ Stroud, even though I'm a Ohio State fan, but like I don't know. I feel like he's not set up to win. Their defense will probably be terrible. They won't be the worst team in the NFL, but really don't know. I mean, it's just whatever. I mean, the Houston Texans. Shouldn't spend that much time on them. They're in mediocrity after Deshaun Watson. Even Damian Pierce, my offensive rookie of the year, rip. But I don't think they'll do well either. Tunsil is good, Shaq Mason is fine, but their offensive line will be in struggles. I don't think Damian Pierce will have enough to run the ball. But D'Amico Ryans, I liked him as the San Francisco defensive head coach, but I don't think he has enough talent like the San Francisco 49ers to just do as much damage as he did in San Francisco. So I have them as the under. I don't think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL, but CJ Stroud, I'm so sorry.
I am also going to take the under, but I do think they're going to be better than the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Texans win 6 games. And while I think D'Amico Ryan is somebody that's going to end up being a very good coach in this league. D'Amico Ryan is somebody that I think from day one, he's going to get that respect in the locker room. And I think they have some nice young pieces. I think their offensive line will be okay. And I do think CJ Stroud is sort of in a situation where it's a little bit different from Anthony Richardson. With the sole fact, I think, of everybody being on the same page. And I think Stroud is a little bit more NFL ready than Anthony Richardson at this time. I'm not saying Stroud will be a better player than Richardson, but I think from day one, Stroud, I think, is more NFL ready. So I'm going to take the under, though, but I do think the Texans can win 6 games. And I think if they end up winning 6 games this year, I think they would be happy from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's probably an overachievement. Even though
for sure. Despite that DraftKings, I guess, win total. If they win 6 games, I think they'll be very happy about that. All right, who do you like to win the AFC South?
I don't overthink it. Ready? 1,
Yep, I'm ready.
2, and I won't say the Cardinals. 1, 2, 3, Jags.
Texans. Oh, oops.
Oh, all right. Here, the Cardinals this time.
I agree with you. I'm taking the Jags. They win the AFC South for sure. But I do think the Titans will nip on their heels a little bit. I do. I think the Jags win the division with 10 games, and I think the Titans finish second with 8 wins.
I think the Titans will sweep the Jags, though.
You think they're in their head?
Yeah.
Damn. Hey, if that's kind of what happens, Mike Vrabel's a good coach, and I would, no shame if he gives a quarterback issues, because I think that's what he does.
And as we said at the beginning of the show, I will bet the Titans if I see Will Levis starting the preseason game. Just because.
Absolutely. I think you have
to do that. Principle, right?
So now we've previewed and broke down 6 of the 8 NFL divisions. If you've missed previous episodes, go back and listen. If we already did your favorite team, give us a listen or a view on YouTube, either or. And next week, Peter, we get the AFC North and the NFC North. We will have a guest. That guest is TBD, but we will have a guest. I promise you that, Peter. But that'll be a fun one. We can talk a little Detroit Lions. We can talk some Joe Burrow. He's already banged up, but Lamar Jackson.
I got some hot takes on the NFC and AFC South.
You mean the North?
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're saying. But
yeah.
All right, I'm excited for it. That'll be next week.
The Compass Rose. So
all right. Don't give me any hints. I'm excited for it. And then we'll do awards after that, get some college football the week after. So football
will give me the Heisman winner.
Yes.
Even though he hasn't done that in like 3 years. That's totally fine.
I will say I'm not going to reveal it until we have Carr on in a couple weeks, but he gave me his sleeper team. I saw him a couple weeks ago. He gave me a sleeper team. But it's not really a sleeper. It's not as big of a sleeper as he anticipated it would be. After we looked at the odds after, and we were like, really?
Is it Houston or whatever I said?
No, it is not Houston.
Wisconsin.
No, you'll have to wait a couple weeks. All right, Peter, that was a good breakdown of the AFC South and NFC South. 5 questions. Ready? My turn to ask you.
Let's do it.
All right, Peter, let's do it. I got some good ones for you this week. Question number 1. I don't think we mentioned this when it happened. If we did, I apologize. But Patrice Bergeron retired from the NHL, right? Of course, Bruins legend, been with the team 20 years. Now, create a list of Boston athletes over the last 20 years and stop when you get to Patrice Bergeron. Not your favorite, but I guess in terms of accomplishments.
All right, Tom Brady, anybody on the Patriots during that time. Ortiz. Probably him.
So
or Chara, and then Brady.
I think this is how I would do it. I would go Brady 1, as you just said. Ortiz 2. Then I think it's between Paul Pierce and Patrice Bergeron. They each won 1. They've been to 2. That's a tough one. Oh, Bergeron been to 3. I think Bergeron, it's close.
Oh,
It's
really? I
very
say
close.
Bergeron before Pierce and even Chara because like Pierce would bounce around ever.
Pierce bounced around at the end. But yeah, I guess if you want to put it that standpoint, Bergeron stayed with the Bruins, so maybe he gets the edge there. It's close. It's close. But I think he's right around 3, 4, 5. He's around.
You can't forget like Gronk, Edelman, all those.
Yeah, they're all there for sure.
I lumped them in with Brady. So
Yep. All right. Question number 2, Peter. Do you ever watch the Little League World Series? Because that's starting up next week.
I don't. Fun fact, my brother does that. I don't know why,
Really?
but I don't do that.
Dude, I love it. I am a religious watcher of it every single year.
Who's
Uh,
good?
So right now they're doing like the preliminaries to decide who's going to get to the Little League World Series. So for the Northeast one, the game is actually tonight meaning Thursday night. So it already happened. It's between Massachusetts and Maine. Winner goes to the Little League World Series. The Massachusetts representative right now is Canton. So pretty close to us. So I'm rooting for Canton. Hopefully they get far. It's usually like,
It was
I
like
mean,
Connecticut during the
yeah, it's
Northeast.
usually
No?
Rhode Island. I've seen Massachusetts doesn't really get there that often. So that would be cool if they end up getting there. But it's a good product. I enjoy it. I really do. Maybe it's because I coached, but I enjoy it. Question 3, Peter. If you could own any company in the world right now, what would it be?
Twitter or X. So much media
Interesting.
attention. No, so much media attention. Shout out to Dave. He hates they rebranded X. He's
Isn't
like,
he
I'm
off
like,
X?
yeah, he is.
I thought he
Even
was.
though even though don't make it fool you. He does respond in our Twitter group chat or X group chat
So
every
he's
day.
not off. He's not off X.
No.
Damn.
But probably them.
Okay. Look, I'm a big Twitter/X. That's my number one. You know how that goes. But Amazon, Apple, I think they're in the conversation. If you want to think of like a unique one, trying to think of something obscure.
I don't even know. Chipotle, you see their stock price? And
Look, I love Chipotle, but this is a little different, but maybe an airline if you want to clean it up because the industry is sort of like a mess right now. I don't know.
Uber Eats. Shout out to Justin.
Question number what was that? Number 3?
4.
Question number 4. It's a 2-part question. 1, have you seen the Johnny Manziel documentary?
I have. I just saw it last night.
Nice. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. So part 2, what athlete deserves a documentary like that?
See, I was gonna say the Florida State team, but that's already coming out in 2 weeks.
Oh,
So
the Florida team, yeah. Yep.
yeah. But probably like I don't know, Gronk. That'd be fun.
I have a couple.
But
I
go
mean,
see the Johnny Manziel, but you'll feel disappointed because it's not really like anything after college football.
really? Okay. I'm interested. Well, don't tell me. I'm excited to see
I'm
it.
not. Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of athletes that, are very polarizing and kind of deserve some, I guess, limelight. I think a cool one from like a local thing would be Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, somebody that,
I don't think he's a big enough name though.
yeah, I mean, that's true. He might not be. So if you want to think big name,
I don't-
trying to think.
We do Ryan Lochte from the Olympics that got doped.
Yeah,
in
that could
his
be
second
one.
year.
Trying to think of like some polarizing. Aaron Rodgers would be an interesting one. Later in like a later stage sort of thing. I don't know. I'm trying to think of teams. I think maybe like who was like a with my LeBron with Miami. Like I feel like that got ugly at the end. I don't know. It's difficult to kind of say now. All right, question 5, Peter. I know we have a fantasy football draft on Saturday, right? So this isn't directly about football. It's about fantasy football. See the loophole?
Good local.
I'm not asking for your draft strategy. I would never do that, especially in this league where it's like year 13 of the league.
I mean, listen, I'll do my first pick. It doesn't even matter.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. That's not what I'm asking. That ain't what I'm asking. Name me a player or players that you believe analysts are overrating. Overrating.
Overrating. Will Levis. I'm not dropping him though. Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know.
Like who is everyone talking about? And you're like, no, I'm not drafting this guy. This guy's gonna suck.
Oh, Damian Pierce, Kenneth Walker, Tris Olave, even though we love him.
Wow, I love Olave.
Yeah. I don't know. This is gonna ruin my whole draft strategy. I don't know.
I just asked one. You the one that rattled
Any
three.
quarterback. Any
Wow.
quarterback.
Okay. So Peter's anti-quarterback, and he doesn't like Damian Pierce.
Even though I loved him last year.
Kenneth
Olave,
Walker
I loved him
and
last
Chris
year.
Olave.
Yeah. Well, Kenneth Walker, I want him to do so bad. I want him to tear his ACL. Not really.
Kenneth Walker?
He's a
Why?
car.
Oh,
Dynasty league.
let me try to think of one. I'll give you maybe a couple.
I don't know.
One that
Like the Colts, Michael Pittman's gonna. I don't know.
Michael Pittman might fall into that category.
I would say Mike Evans, but I'm still gonna draft him.
Najee Harris.
I don't think he'll be as bad as he was last year.
I
You
don't
got
know,
him
man.
last year, so
I ain't drafting him this year.
PTSD. So yeah.
Tell you that one. But all right, Peter. So that was 5 questions. You got me next week. But next week we will
No,
break
we got
down.
the special guest next week.
Oh yeah, special guest, of course, which will be revealed at the time of the show. We'll do the AFC North and the NFC North. It'll be a lot of fun. So again, if you missed out on previous episodes, we did your favorite team already. Check us out on YouTube. Look at other different episodes we've done. So check that out. We're pretty popular on YouTube, Peter. I didn't realize how popular we were.
Yeah, everyone loves us. And check out week 1's for picks when it's like 2,000 views. Good luck in the fantasy draft.
Yeah, best of luck to you. You pick. What'd you say? You picked 5th?
I pick 5. You pick 4. So
Oh shit! I don't like this, man.
there you go.
I don't like this.
There you
Well,
go.
best of luck, Peter. Catch you next week. AFC North, NFC North on the way.
And at the end of the show, we can figure out our draft results. But
Yes.
yeah, stay hot.